7 signs you have been emotionally abused. Sign number 1. You become dissociated and feel dead inside. Complex trauma caused by emotional abuse has the power to force our childhood into foreclosure. Our true self is the part of us that is free, spontaneous, and fully alive. But having been emotionally abandoned by our caretakers, we have also learned to bury our true selves. Such disconnection comes not from one single traumatic experience, but from an accumulation of painful emotional memories, when our enthusiasm was met with coldness, our passion misunderstood, our feelings silenced, or our actions punished. The innocent, most alive part of us, our soul, our true self, or our inner child, is forced into hiding. Because the repeated emotional abuse or neglect from toxic family dynamics was so painful, you had no choice but to dissociate. Your numbing may involve disconnection from the body, your emotions, and other people. You can continue to function in the outside world but don't feel connected. You hide from your passion, spontaneous aliveness, and the ability to be vulnerable. You observe everything with intellectual curiosity but remain distanced. The result is an emptiness that derails your sense of being. Deep down, you may feel guilty for having forsaken your truths. Sign number 2. You may feel defective. Children naturally blame themselves for what happens to them. When they are bullied, they believe it is because they are not good enough. If they seek attention from their parents but are neglected, they believe they are too needy. If they are burdened with demands that they cannot fulfill, they believe it is their failure. Failing to be a perfect child, to take good care of their siblings, or to soothe their parents' anger. This plants a seed for the complex trauma that follows. If, as an intense child, you were scapegoated as the problematic one, that is, the one who is too much, too sensitive, the origin of all woes in the household, you would believe you are at fault and internalize a sense defectiveness. You then believe that you are disgusting, ugly, stupid, or flawed. The toxic shame binds you with beliefs such as nothing I do is good enough, there is something wrong with me, or I am bad and toxic. Toxic shame makes you think you deserve little and need to settle for less. It stops you from fulfilling your potential as you hold yourself back from opportunities.
Sign number 3. You may be highly anxious. If our parents are emotionally unstable, or if due to their vulnerabilities we feel the need to take care of them, we become the little adults at home. We become hypervigilant, always watching out for the smallest clues about our parents' emotional fluctuations so that we can protect ourselves and our siblings. Hyperempathic tendency that is a result of complex trauma doesn't go away, and we carry it into adulthood. So even now, our nervous system remains in a continual state of high arousal. We may feel we cannot relax and have to always look out for danger. We may be irritable and jumpy, suffer from insomnia, other anxiety-related disorders, and obsessive-compulsive tendencies. In this case, we should be aware that the compulsive tendency is not an innate trait, but a result of having suffered toxic family dynamics. Our bodies store traumatic memories more than our mind does. As a result of childhood complex trauma, we feel ungrounded and uncentered. We are like frightened children living in adult bodies. When unexpected things happen, we are overwhelmed and feel close to breaking down. Sign number 4. You may resort to compulsion and addiction to cope. Our brain is designed to protect us. When we come across a particularly difficult or traumatic situation, it will be stored in a way that is frozen in time as complex trauma. But we may not even remember it. We are not sure what triggers us, but our suppressed memories come out in the form of uncontrollable mood swings, persistent sadness, depression, and explosive anger. Through addictive behaviors of any form, from drinking, spending, eating to compulsive sex, we try to either a. Numb away the pain that we try so hard not to feel, or b. Fill the inner void. However, this can escalate into a compulsive cycle, for the numbing/filling effect from these external agents never lasts long, and the moment their effect ceases, we reach for more. Sadly, it is a dead-end escape route that never leads anywhere.
Sign number 5, you are fearful of intimacy and love. If you have been trapped by toxic family dynamics for a long time, your ability to be intimate with someone will be affected. Potentially, trust, interdependence, and acceptance all require a degree of vulnerability that your wounded skin finds too hard to bear. If you did not feel welcomed into the world, you may always feel like an outcast, someone with no hope of finding belongingness in the world. In a way, all our life, you are caught between the intense need for kinship and the extreme fear of contact. After having been betrayed by those who were supposed to love and support you, you may unconsciously decide that you can no longer take any pain and disappointment. You think if you stop hoping or believing in anything or anyone, you can avoid the inevitable letdown. Instilled in your subconscious is the belief that it is risky to have hope and expectations, so to avoid disappointment you don't attach to anyone or anything. Suppressing painful memories consumes a tremendous amount of energy. If you bury your betrayal complex trauma without processing it, you may relate to the world through the lens of grudge and suspicion and push people away. On the other hand, if you grew up in a chaotic household, or if your parents were overprotective or overbearing, you may now fear being smothered, losing control, or losing a sense of individuality. We fear being asked for too much, and thus distance ourselves and withhold. Retreating from closeness does not necessarily mean isolating ourselves entirely, but we may feel the need to conceal parts of our authentic selves. On the surface, we are social, but we don't get close to anyone. Or maybe we settle for false closeness in sex, but never commit to knowing anyone in depth. We hide our passionate, loving self, and become cold, cynical, and sarcastic. Withdrawing into our shells whenever we feel vulnerable also means not being able to take in support and love from others. Eventually, we lose hope in finding anyone who can understand us. Sign number 6, you damage the love you have. Neuroscientists have found that parents' responses to our attachment-seeking behaviors, especially during the first 2 years of our lives, encode our view of the world. If as infants, we have consistent attachment interactions with an attuned, available, and nurturing caregiver, we will be able to develop a sense of safety and trust. In contrast, when our parents are emotionally unavailable to us, we internalize the message that the world is a frightening place. When we are in need, no one will be there. This forms a complex trauma that is too hard to bear. This results in deep fear of abandonment. As adults, any kind of distance, even a brief and benign one, may trigger you to re-experience the original pain of being left alone, dismissed, or disdained. Your fear could trigger coping survival modes such as denial, clinging, avoidance, dismissing others, lashing out in relationships, or the pattern of sabotaging relationships to avoid potential rejection. The message that you received from your toxic family dynamics' unhealed wounds tells you that being mistreated or degraded is still better than being on your own.
Sign number 7, you sabotage your success. The toxic family dynamic might have led you to believe your success and happiness would threaten your siblings, attract envy, and somehow brand you as being arrogant if you were high-achieving. Perhaps your parents were too limited in their worldview to comprehend your gifts, and deep down you carry a survivor guilt that says if you achieve more than others or outgrow your family, you are betraying them. Subconsciously, you become frightened of your power. Expecting little of ourselves and others may have made sense when we were little people who lived at the mercy of explosive parents, but that expectation no longer serves us if we wish to step into a more prominent place and live fully. You do not need to be trapped by what has happened in a toxic family dynamic that was not your making. So, the above are 7 signs that shows you might be suffering from complex trauma, from toxic family dynamics. The bouncing back process for complex trauma from emotional abuse is different from therapy for non-complex PTSD, general depression, or anxiety. Because of the complicated issues around a personal sense of safety and stability, Being exposed to traumatic materials before you are ready can lead to re-traumatization and reinforce the cycle of hopelessness. Themes such as safety, mourning, and reconnection are some of the key themes specific to the process of bouncing back from toxic family dynamics. Things that may help you heal and thrive may include the following. 1. Locating or developing an internal sense of safety. 2. Processing the impact of the toxic family dynamics and the emotions that follow without being overwhelmed. 3. Building connection with self, the body, and emotions through mindfulness and other mind-body techniques. 4. Finding ways to cope when feeling overwhelmed, without resorting to avoidance or compensatory behaviors such as overeating, overspending, and other impulsive habits. 5. Becoming aware of and finding ways to preserve your energetic boundaries. 6. Lessening the impact of your internalized shame and the voice of the inner critic. With time and dedication, bouncing back from the impact of emotional abuse is absolutely possible. I wish you well on this journey.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to this. I hope that some of the pieces in this audio essay are useful to you. You may also want to share it with some of your friends and families so they can have a better understanding of what you're going through. Please feel free to comment below and let me know what you think. And if there are specific topics that you want me to talk about, please let me know also. I would also absolutely love it if you can subscribe to this channel. Alright then, until next time.